Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening. This is Life and In Between. It's time to get your protein powder, get your creatine, go get your omega 3s because we need to wake up this brain up here. And we have a special guest today who's going to give us some insights, some wisdom, and pretty much explore life and in between. My name is Patrick Packman Bettis. I'm your co host here. And now for the founder, the guru, the Muab Deep, Diana Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. I thank you everyone for joining us in Life in Between. I am so excited to be joining Debbie Weiss today. Debbie Weiss is a best-selling author, speaker, and a podcast host who openly speaks about midlife changes, where a lot of us are going through this, and caregiving loss, which a lot of us in America and even outside of America are facing. We have so much to talk about and to really dive into. She is going to share her wealth of knowledge and really know that we're not alone in this journey. So I don't want to steal her thunder. I kind of want her to talk a little bit more and expand on what she does. I'm going to pass over to the mic, and thank you, Debbie Weiss, for joining us.
Thank you both for having me. I'm very excited to be here and for this conversation. I guess I'll just give you a brief summary of my background. I became a family caregiver at the age of 17 when my father had a stroke, and luckily he survived. But my parents divorced, and so I was his caregiver for the next 30 years. And then when my oldest son was 2, he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum. And as parents, we're all caregivers for sure. But when you have a child with special needs, it takes it to another level. And then later in life, I also became my husband's caregiver. And so I've had a life of, unexpected, right? Whoever expects when you're a teenager that you're going to wind up taking care of your family members from such a young age. Not that I would change anything, but I found myself around the age of 50 feeling like maybe a little unsatisfied, feeling like this is it. I guess this is just my lot in life. And I kind of had an aha moment at that point, which we can talk about. And now I'm 62. And so I've been at this for over a decade. And I have completely changed my life and have just an excited, expanded idea of my future. And this is even through a lot of challenging times because 3 years ago I became a widow as well.
Oh, my condolences. Uh, you talked, I'm sorry, Patrick. I just kind of automatically just kind of wanted to just dive in and ask Debbie. Um, you started off so early, and then you said you had an aha moment. Can you expand on that aha moment?
Sure. I think leading up to 50, I don't want to say I was unhappy. I think that, if you peek through the window of my house and what we think is desirable, you would say, what does she have to complain about? I live in a great neighborhood. I have this lovely house, 2 kids, my husband, all the things. I am an insurance agent. I have a wonderful team of women who I work with. So, what did I really have to complain about? But on the inside, I was giving every single thing that I had to everyone else year after year after year that I was exhausted, burnt out, angry, and resentful,
Mm.
even though I knew, that it's nobody's fault for being sick and all these things. But I kind of felt sorry for myself. Like, why me? What did I do to deserve this? And when I turned 50, my friends insisted on taking me away for the weekend to celebrate. And one night at dinner, one of my friends said, okay, let's go around the table and everybody share your hopes and dreams. And when it got to me, I thought, hopes and dreams, like I'm 50. Aren't I done? I don't have any hopes and dreams for me. I have a lot of hopes and dreams for my sons, but not for me. And that was that was eye-opening when I listened to my other friends who had these aspirations. I also felt at 50, for me, there was something about that number that really made me look at my mortality. And my dad had died about a year before I turned 50, and he died with so many regrets. He constantly talked about things that he regretted in his life, past decisions and whatnot, and things he had never done. And my mom, who's still alive, she often talks about her regrets. And I thought, God forbid I died right now, I would be just like them. I would have so many regrets. I don't want to be that person who gets to the end of their lives looking back and saying, what if, and shoulda, coulda, woulda. The only problem was I had no idea. It wasn't like I was someone who was meant to be an artist and I never explored that side of me. Nope. I had no idea. I had no aspirations, but I just knew that something had to change.
Wow. And I know that right now we have many people that are sitting in that situation right now that they're like, what next? What happens? They're in that life and in between moment, like literally right there, that they don't know what to do. Can you share? And I know each person's journey is different and how they have to unpack that and figure that out. What did you do to make you come to that, like, I know what I want to do, or if you're still searching,
I think I'm still searching. I think we all are still constantly searching and figuring it out. The thing was, I wasn't searching before that, right?
okay.
I was just in the status quo, figuring not that I was giving up, but kind of like, okay, it is what it is. When I got back from that trip and I didn't know where to start, when we look at the different areas of our lives, career, finances, partnership, all those things, health, I think in the back of our minds, we pretty much know which one of those categories needs the most work. And for me, it was health. I've always struggled with my weight, literally since the moment that I was born. And, I've lost and gained thousands of pounds at this point. And at 50, I found myself over 100 pounds overweight. And when you're younger, it's the weight is all about appearance and clothes and all of those things. But as you get older, it shifts a little. You still care about those things, but now you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is unhealthy. I want to make sure that I'm there for my children, for my future grandchildren. And so when I came back, I decided that was the first thing that I was going to tackle. But I knew something had to be different because I'd been on diets since I was 8 years old. And so even though I knew how to lose weight, I didn't know how to lose weight and maintain it. And so I thought, all right, I, Albert Einstein says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, right? And expecting a different result. So I said, I'm going to go back to Weight Watchers because that had been the program that worked the best for me. But I am going to approach it differently. Instead of going like I had in the past and saying, oh, I have to lose 25 pounds in 3 months or by my birthday or the summer or whatever it is. And then if I lost 13 pounds instead of 25, I failed. So I said, my only goal is to go to a meeting each week. I'm not going to pay attention to anything else. I'm not going to pay attention to what I eat, exercise, water, all the other things. And that's what I did. And every week when I went to the meeting, I felt really good about myself because I achieved my goal. And I did that for several months. And I probably gained 5 pounds in those several months, but I didn't beat myself up over that. And I just kept showing up. And once I had that down, then I added something else. I'll pay attention to what I eat 50% of the time and so on. During this, I realized that I need to shift my feelings about my weight and realize I am never going off this. That's what the problem with a diet is, right? I mean, you go on, you go off, you go on, you go off. Clearly, that's not working. I will eat pizza, ice cream, and bagels again, my three favorite food groups. I just am not going to eat them for every meal. And so, in 3.5 years, which would have been, I never would have stuck with it that long. In 3.5 years, I lost 90 pounds. And that was probably about, I guess maybe I'm coming up on 9 years ago now. And for the most part, I've maintained it. Yeah, I've gone up 10 pounds, but now I catch it. And I saw how just making those small, minute changes that you feel really aren't going to add up to anything, right? So you went to a meeting, big deal. But in the end, that was like, the start of the domino effect. And when you do something small like that and it feels good, then you want to keep going. You want to feel that way. And so that's where I started. And then from there, I said, okay, look at what happened when I just changed my mindset, the way I was approaching it. Where else can I apply that thinking in other areas of my life?
I love that.
This is so good. This is so good. I want to throw some stuff out there too, because this. So I'm at the age, and some of our listeners may be around my age. I just turned 46, so mid 40s, and it's that same kind of thing. Like, where to next? It's what's the next step? What's the next goal? And I'll give you shout outs here because one thing I have realized, and I heard this from another speaker, someone is that we don't just rise to the level of our goals, but we kind of stick around the level of our habits. And that's kind of what it sounds like you did. You just started making the habit of showing up. Let me go to these meetings. Let me get here. And I think that's where we get so overwhelmed because we see so many people like, I'm gonna get shredded like this person. I'm gonna lose weight like this person. And then it's like, yeah, but it's a lifestyle change. And that's the hardest part is that we get comfortable. We just get back to our own little homeostasis where we just know we don't need to put out all the bandwidth and all the energy to get, lose 90 pounds. So kudos to you for that. And I had one question, and this was kind of a pattern I realized a lot of times in my life, and I'm pretty sure with anybody who deals with that mortality of seeing a loved one pass away, a friend pass away, is that it all of a sudden that mirrors back in our face like time is ticking. Time is ticking. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. One friend passed away on a motorcycle like that. Another one was in a coma for months. And so where it is, it's coming back to like you're 46 now, but time is ticking. And that seemed to kind of and I'm wondering, was that kind of the energizer that left you feeling like there's got to be more? My parents have these regrets. There's got to be more. I could do something else, but not really knowing, what is that next big mountain to climb?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, when we say midlife, it's funny. I'm 62. I guess I'm still in midlife, but am I going to be 124 one day? I don't know about that. I hope so, maybe, but I don't know. So, yes, I think that, sure, it definitely feels like, oh my goodness, you're getting closer to the end. I mean, I hate to say that, but that is what it is. That's what mortality is. We all know that we're not going to be on this earth forever. And so did start to, it was like now or never. What are you waiting for? You can tell yourself so many different stories. You can talk yourself in or out of anything, right? I did it to myself last night. I said I was going to exercise. It's 6 o'clock. I'm so tired. La, la, la. On the other hand, you know, if I just said, I'm just going to do it for 5 minutes and see what happens, you know what happens if you do it for 5 minutes. Then you're doing it for 10, 15, 20, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's good that you have that internal motivation, but also like with the Weight Watchers, you had a community that was there. You had friends that took you out for your 50th, and they pull you out. So I think there's times where our friends are the ones that pull us out of the muck or out of our loop.
Oh, yeah. Without my friends, I have to say, with my friends and family through all that I've gone through and continue to go through in life, to have them by my side. And now, at this point, to kind of enjoy our lives together because for so long, I've always wanted to travel, but because of finances, because of my caregiving, I've never been able to. And in the last few years, we make it now a priority. And
Mm.
just for that reason, because we've seen so many people our age in their early 60s pass away. And, are we ever going to have enough money? Are we ever going to have the time? Are we ever, and I'm not saying to be neglectful, but, sometimes you just got to say yes.
Mm. Mm.
That is so very true. And believe it or not, I mean, I love what you said because I recently went on a cruise with my mother. My mother has Parkinson's, and so my sister and I decided to go on this cruise, take her so that she can experience, as we're seeing her deterioration, and right now we're seeing, but we wanted her to experience that. Um, but if you look closely, there are some really great deals out there like that 6 day
Yes.
cruise. Literally, I mean, the people like it because when you say financially, some people say I can't financially do it, but you can go out there, even if it's just going on a weekend away, um, in your area, like in a hotel and staying like in a hotel in your area, having that or an Airbnb kind of thing, and just experiencing that break from the norm and just having a romantic getaway or even a self-healing caregiving reflection kind of like care for myself, love myself kind of retreat kind of thing. You can do that. So there are ways, and I love the fact that the traveling aspect is like that disconnect that and it is beautiful. um, which leads me to kind of ask a question. In you're doing this discovery, and I wanted to go back to your caregiving moments, when you were in living through that, and you saw the regrets and all that, and then suddenly the idea of the book comes because you, if I'm not mistaken, you not just one, but you got two out there, right?
Yeah.
So
It to me, this is like I still shake my head. This is just the craziest story. And this is why you really need to stay open. And I think that that's one of the things that I have definitely changed since I was 50. If you had told me when I was 50 that I would write a book, let alone two books, I would have bet you $1 billion that that would never happen because I don't like to write. This is what I would have told you. I don't like to write. I don't have a creative bone in my body, and I have no interest. So why would I ever be doing this? But through my journey of discovery, which was and still is not a linear line, right? Eventually, I wound up being led to the idea of writing a book because this is when I decided that I wanted to be a speaker because I wanted to get my message out there to people. But in order to do that, it's kind of like, okay, what do you do? Just get on my rooftop and say, hey, here I am, pick me. I want to come share my message. So it was the book, the book, the book. And I said, there's one problem. I have no idea how to write a book. And one of the things that I did after 50 was I started listening to podcasts, which 12 years ago weren't as popular as they are now, right? So I started listening to podcasts. I started reading books. I started taking some courses on mindset and different things and just really opening myself up to possibilities that I had been very closed off to. And talking about, as you were talking about before we came on air, like the woo woo stuff, I was like, no, no, this is no. But in being open to everything, one day I was listening to a podcast while this book idea was in the back of my mind. And it was a podcast I didn't listen to all the time. And they were interviewing a woman who helped first time authors get their stories out there. And I thought, oh, come on. This is just too much of a coincidence that here I am thinking, how do you even write a book? And she's there saying, I can help. So I contacted her. I loved her. She was just launching a small group program for first-time authors. I was scared out of my mind because I had a lot of imposter syndrome. And it was a financial investment. And I was just about to join. And out of the blue, my husband gets diagnosed with terminal blood cancer. And I was seeing a therapist at the time, and I said to her, I was going to join this, but obviously I'm not doing it now. I don't know what the future holds and what it's going to look like, and I can take it, down the road. And she said, no, I totally disagree. Now is the perfect time. I said, I think this woman is crazy. Like, who does this? What do you mean it's the perfect time? I said, what if I can't show up one week to the group? What if there's homework and I don't do it? What if I have to read out loud and they judge me? And she just said, so what? Who cares? And I thought, wow, okay, I guess. And so I joined, and it took me about 6 weeks to kind of get comfortable with what I was doing. But once I did, and once I wrote 10,000 words, because, word count is a lot of things in this book thing, I thought maybe I can do this. I really, when I joined, I didn't believe it. People were saying my goal is I'm going to finish my first draft by the end of this course. And I'm like, oh, yeah, me too. But I didn't really think that. I just was going along with the crowd. But at 10,000 words, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to believe this. And, my husband was in and out of hospitals, and a lot of stuff was going on at home, but I made it a priority. Almost every day, I scheduled in time to write, whether it was 5:30 in the morning, I'd get up early before he woke up. If he was in the hospital, I'd bring my stuff with me, and when he was sleeping or went down for a test, I wrote there. And when he passed away, I was 3 chapters shy of finishing my memoir. So, you know, to say that um, anyone listening who says, I don't have time, my life is crazy, all the excuses, which I clearly could have made, it just really proved to me that you're the one holding yourself back, right? If you want to make something happen, regardless of what else is going on in your life, you'll figure it out.
That is so true. I
Drop
mean,
the
like you,
mic. Wow. Good, good.
that
Wow.
is a drop the mic moment. It is so very true. I
Hmm.
know, Patrick, you have something to say because I could see it. It's like just
Oh,
slipping out of your lips.
buddy,
And I'm
it's
like, I'm
so
gonna,
good. What you're just saying. It's so what? Who cares? Do it anyways. And a lot of people are like, oh, I gotta work. I gotta. It's like you were in the hospital with your husband, and I see the writing as kind of your escape, as your outlet, your me, like putting your oxygen mask on first on the airplane to give. And and I'll say, even 46, it's like, yeah, we have a 4-year-old, we have medical bills out the wazoo, so it's just everything top of mind. But I'm always like, I've given up a lot of my hobbies. I don't do as much as I used to, but what's holding me back? And it's me. It's like I'm literally free today, but I'm like, oh, I guess I'm just going to kind of wander around with the wind. But it's like, no, you choose a direction. You 10,000 words, you had your goal that gives you the steps to get there. And I love that it's like you at 50, 60, it's like you begin again and you begin better. You begin again, you begin better. And that's encouraging. It's for anybody out there listening, you can begin again, you can begin better. It's not easy though. It's not easy. I mean, from your story, you bring the reality of being in the hospital, and still the outcome was loss. It was loss. So I just commend you for going through all of that, but still beginning again, beginning better. And did you finish the memoir? Did that?
So, one, thank you very much. Um, Two, I was supposed to have it. So, my husband passed away on December 30th of 2022. I was supposed to have the memoir to the editor on January 15th of 2023, so 2 weeks later. And of course, they said to me, don't be ridiculous. We're going to extend the timeline, all the things. And if you've ever lost a loved one, and I have to say, losing my husband was very different than losing my father. You're surrounded by loved ones right afterwards, right? And after everything's over, everyone else goes back to their regular life. And you're just left here thinking, how could everyone else just be going to work and like doing their regular things? Because my life is completely different. And you sit here, and that's when I think, the hardest time because you are now living in this new reality, and everyone else has gone back to their regular lives, what they know, and they have no idea what it feels like. God, I can't believe this. It's 3 years. I'm like just getting choked up, and I don't usually when I talk about it. Um, so what I decided was a week later, after he died, when everyone went home, I thought, you know what? Writing this book, as you said, Patrick, was therapeutic for me. Why can't it be therapeutic for me now in this hardest time, right after loss? And I finished those three chapters, and January 15th, I hit send.
Salute you. Uh, yeah, heart, giving you the heart. That's a lot.
Is
That is a lot.
that's a lot, and it your testimony to others of how you took a situation where you could have drowned in that pain and just let it go, and but you didn't. You took that pain, you drowned, and that was your form of therapy, as you know, that was your release, and you use that, and that's a beautiful testimony, and and for us to witness that, and for you to share that here on Life and in Between. Thank you for being vulnerable and allowing us to share your story with our audience, so thank you for that. um I am, like, you actually pulled on my heart, and like a lot of what you have said has resonated. And I know it's going to resonate with a lot of people out there. So my next question is book number two. I mean, this your book number one is beautiful and powerful in your journey. Can you explain book number two to us?
Yes. So after Well, actually, let me backtrack before I answer your question. I want to
Okay.
tell you that book number one, just because I finished the book doesn't mean that the grief was any different, right? It gave me a different focus. But what wound up happening was, of course, I didn't know anything about writing a book or what happens. I just figured, oh my goodness, look, send, I wrote the book. I'm all done. Boom, boom. And then I find out all this stuff about all these edits and oh my goodness. And it was so overwhelming. But so it kind of carried me through, and the book was going to release on August 9th of 2023, and I decided to turn it into a celebration. And I threw myself basically a book launch party, and I had about 50 people in a room, and I had my sons, oh my gosh, I had my sons kind of like be the MCs. And my brother came. We don't live near each other, and he came and we did a little segment where he interviewed me, and there was a lot of laughing going on, and it turned into such a celebration that I think my whole family needed, and it gave us hope. I think something else to focus on, which really turned out to be such a gift. after that book came out, the book is a memoir. I had to make a decision early on. What was this book going to be? A lot of times people will write a memoir, and at the end of each chapter, maybe they'll give you like a little things to think about based on what you wrote. And I decided, no, it's just stories and it's inspirational. There is no self-help component. And so people said, this is great, but can you tell me what you did since 50 to make this change? We want to know. And I thought, oh goodness, now I got to write a second one. The second one is shorter, and I think it flowed easier for me since I now was, just such an accomplished author, ha ha. And so it's called The Sprinkle Effect. And I took part of my personality that some might say is childish, but I love my birthday and I love hearts and I love rainbow sprinkles and balloons and Mickey Mouse, and it makes me smile. And so the sprinkle effect is the idea that you take different colored sprinkles that together form something beautiful. And so each chapter is a sprinkle, like a sprinkle of courage, a sprinkle of belief, curiosity, joy, action, adaptability, resilience, those types of things. And so I talk about that particular sprinkle and still a memoir component where I share a personal story. The difference is at the end, there are activities based on that sprinkle for readers to complete. And I have to say that that part is a big deal for me because I don't know about you guys, I'd love to know. In the past, when I read a book that had activities at the end, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm not doing those activities. Like, I'm not taking it. I just want to keep going. This is, I'll go back to it, which of course you never go back to it, right? Or I'll just think about the answer in my head. But I found that that's nice, but then you put the book on a shelf and you don't remember it and you don't really take anything that you've learned and, use it. So I really, really feel strongly that the beauty and the magic is in you having to complete the activities for yourself. Otherwise, I don't think that change will happen or be sustainable.
I think that's
Yeah.
great because you're inviting people to participate, but it's literally like they're participating in the loss that you had that launched you to where you are, and you're giving them like it's like literally your hand is coming out of the books like, hey, I like sprinkles. You will too. Come join me. I think it's so cool. I'm like I started tearing up as well. It's just your resilience to come back and build. And I mean, it's the fact that y'all had the celebration, that you created that celebration. A lot of people, myself included, will go through these hardships, and sadly, a lot of times we just kind of let it go till it's just, it suppresses, it's gone, it's not there, instead of really dealing with the grief of losing loved ones, friends, identity in a career change. But you celebrated that. And I think that's one thing that I've heard so many times, like in America, we like to go through things and then it just dissipates instead of actually giving it a strong closure, a celebration, a grieving process. And that you did that, you brought your family together, it launched a book. And I this is like the mental therapy, the outlet that everybody needs, in these crazy times. So thank you.
I hope so because I still, like I said, I still sometimes say, really? I did that? And when I listen to what I did, I'm thinking, boy, if anyone would have known the person that I was, they would really see that anyone can do it. Now it's easy. Oh, I've done these things. And so it seems like no big deal. But when I first started and when I first started speaking and talking on podcasts and whatnot, my mother and my brother were like, you've got to be kidding me. If anybody knew who you were as a kid, I mean, they would really, really see how you can literally change yourself.
It's amazing your evolution, the process of how you evolved as a human and how you're here right now. And I wanted to circle back on your workbook, the that you left this task, which is such a powerful statement because you mentioned in the end you read the book, we get the essence of the sprinkles and everything, we get you, and you're walking people through, this is how I did it, and then you leave, this is how you can do it. Now you are in charge. Now it's up to you to decide if you want to go ahead and make that change. I'm giving you the ingredients, the sprinkles, I'm giving you all the tool sets. And now it's up to you to make that change, which is the hardest part. And it's the closing, because now you are now the way I symbolically, that book closes, you're no longer in that person's life. That person now has to carry that message, carry what they learned, and continue, whether they choose to finish those activities or not. And that's embracing the fact I am going to change and I'm going to do these steps. And it's a beautiful, beautiful way of ending it. I mean, I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, like I said, I resisted for such a long time. I never understood what people would say, you have to do the work. Well, what the heck is the work?
Mhm.
What is this work? But it's really about self-discovery, and I have found, and I didn't say, but prior to writing the book, the thing that kind of made me think, oh, maybe I can do this is that, again, I was being open to ideas that I had not been open to before. And I listened to a podcast about whatever you want to call it, freeform journaling, basically opening up a notebook, nothing in there, no prompt, no question to answer, no nothing, and just write. And honestly, that like gave me anxiety. Just the idea of a blank page, like someone has to give me directions. I can't, what am I supposed to write? But the person I actually was listening to being interviewed, she said, even if you start writing, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, and you keep writing that, eventually you're going to start writing something else. And when I did that and I looked up the first time and 15 minutes had passed and I couldn't believe what was actually in my mind because I didn't realize it until it started coming out on paper.
Mm.
And I was blown away, blown away.
Was
And
that the artist way? Does that ring a
you
bell?
know, it was.
Yes, Julia
He
Cameron.
wasn't being interviewed, but yes,
Yeah, it's a powerful exercise. So
it
anybody who's
is.
listening, try it. It's the free form morning pages, whatever she would call
Yes,
it.
she calls it morning
Oh, that
pages.
is
Yeah.
so good. So good.
It's crazy though, because what's the worst thing that can happen? Like I said, at least if you know, okay, this is what I'm going to write. I don't know what to write. Like you have a starting point and just see what happens. It's crazy. So, and look, some days I can't do it every day. Some days I don't really have much to write. And other days, I could continue writing for the whole day.
And the great thing is, I've done these before, and I don't know why I fell off the bandwagon, but it's that it's just getting you into the flow. It's like you're starting the car. The old school cars. You're starting it. You're getting the brain primed, and I think, and I don't know. It's so cool because even with your books, like I'm like the title, the sparkle effect, sprinkle effect. It's like you could have called your books like Lamentations of Loss or
Bleh.
Disbelief and Despair, but it's like you chose the happiness. Like we still have a choice. Who are we going to present? Who am I going to be in this moment of grief, despair, in the tunnels of life? And that you chose, and that you had the community, you had the mindset, like you said, you're listening to podcasts that pretty much reprogram your mindset, that it wasn't a passive thing, that you did the morning pages. It's like come on. This is you're like the Hulk Hogan, the Arnold Schwarzenegger of pain, of processing the grief and getting through that. And I want to throw out there, have you do you now see yourself holding hands per se with loss, grief, the pains of life? Like, are you just willingly, or do you like, well, until next time I'll see you? Or is it like, no, I know I'm going to be at this point again, but now I'm better prepared?
It's funny. I don't know if you're ever prepared, right? I mean, look, my husband at the end, it was horrible. And it was not just for him. It was not just the cancer. He suffered from anxiety and depression, and that was worse than the cancer, quite honestly. And so I was at a point where you feel guilty for thinking, oh gosh, I hope this is quick because you don't want to see your loved ones suffer.
Yeah.
But then, you feel so guilty about that, like that you're wishing that they die, which is not the case, but just, so you're struggling with that. Um, and then when it happens, the instant it happens, you're like, oh, I want him back. And I think that it never goes away, right? I mean, I talk to him all the time. I laugh at him and say, haha, I'm getting to do this the way I like. I didn't load the dishwasher the way he liked it. Okay, so he loaded the dishwasher for 30 years. I literally never loaded the dishwasher. After he died and I loaded the dishwasher, I said, haha, sorry, in fun. So I have those, it'll never go away, right? It'll never go away. In the good times, in the bad times, when something good happens for our kids, I wish that I could share it with him. I hope that he knows. Um, I think you just have to walk through life. You just don't know when it'll hit you, and I don't really think that you can ever really be prepared. I thought I was prepared, and I wasn't. I don't think you can until you're living it.
Thank you. No, this is, and for our listeners out there too, I I identify with a lot you're saying, and I know at this point, I've been having my therapy sessions with Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Like I go through life, and there's two sides of the coin. There's joy, and then there's despair, grief on the other side. I always literally hold the coin just so I can see the joy, because the despair, the losses, my generation, we when we went through 9/11, that switched a lot of things that we could lose at any time, anywhere, anyway. And so I just decided I'm going to look at this side of the coin. And then when a friend would pass away, it's like, oh crap, there's that side of the coin. No, look at this side of the coin. Oh, a breakup, oh, there's that side of the coin. But you go through life so much like that, it just it changes you, and it's not reality that there is a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to grieve, and all of that. And I think you have kind of found a not a way to rejoice and get through it, but it's like, this is how I just get through it. Whether it's writing, it's community, and so I would even ask if there's like maybe just one or two things, like practical logistical things that you would tell our listeners that may be going through the loss of identity, grief, a loved one. What would you just want to tell them, like, to get through this, or write a book, or morning pages? What would you say?
I think that, everybody deals with grief differently, right? And it depends where you are on that grief journey. Um, just because I was writing a book and editing the book and doing all this, new exciting stuff doesn't mean that that took away my grief. So, but yet, what is it? You don't have to feel one emotion at the same time, right? You could experience them both simultaneously. And so I think instead of just staying in grief. And again, I'm not talking about someone who, lost someone a week ago. It takes a bit, but for most people. But the problem is that staying there, right? Staying in that low place for an extended period of time doesn't do you any good. It's not going to bring that person back, right? Because you move forward in a different direction does not mean that you are missing that person less, that you wish they were here. It doesn't take that away, but you're still living. And so you need to figure out how to move forward with that grief. And, starting whatever little habit, I think that, the other idea about sprinkles is that when you sprinkle something into your life, it's small. And it's the idea of, if going back to my weight loss, if I said, okay, I need to lose 100 pounds in a year, and I'm going to do all the things, right? How many times do we go all in? And it's like, I'm exercising 7 days a week. I'm drinking like 50 gallons of water a day. I'm only eating salad with no dressing, right? But everybody does that, right? So many of us do that. And because you feel like, okay, if you increase the amount of water I drink by a quarter cup a day, what the heck is that going to do? But it's when that other part is too daunting, right? To think about making so much change, and it feels hard, and it is hard. But if you just do a little something, it just is amazing how that will really change your outlook. To be able to do something small, some little small step that will make you feel good about yourself, that you did whatever you set out to accomplish. And if it's something that you can't do, then make it smaller. Make that goal smaller. It does not have to be something so big and overwhelming, because that's what paralyzes most of us. So you got to start somewhere, and it's got to be one little sprinkle.
Very true. Love that. Oh my gosh. This is like, oh wow, you have delivered such a powerful message. And but you know what the thing is? You've delivered it in your sprinkles. Like everything has been sprinkled through as you're telling your story. It's been sprinkled through. It's very micro dosages, like not, and the message is like what you said, not something that has to be extreme, like, I'm gonna go skydiving or whatever, or something like big and dramatic, and I'm gonna sell my house and I'm gonna move to another country, or nothing like altering like that, but
Pray
something that,
love.
yeah, very small, minute, and it can even be the first time that you allow yourself to laugh after that small, and say it's okay to laugh, and it's okay to smile, and it could be
Doesn't
something.
it doesn't diminish, your love or
Yeah,
your grief.
exactly.
Yeah. I want to tell you one other thing that just
Sure,
came to
sure,
my mind.
sure.
When I started to work on my money situation, I thought, okay, I either need to make a lot more money or spend a lot less money, right? And the first place I started, again, this was a while ago, was Facebook Marketplace. And if I sold something and I made $3, I was thrilled. And this was the same exact thing, like $3, really? Is that going to change your financial life? No, it's not. But just the fact that I was proactively doing something about it, and I would take like the $3, the $5, whatever, and I put it in an envelope and I didn't spend it, and I would let it build up. And when I had enough, I used it to pay for all our haircuts. But it felt so good. And it was $3, and you think, what is that going to do? But I was taking action. I really do think that just taking action changes the way you feel, because you're doing something about whatever it is that you want to improve instead of just sticking your head in the sand.
That is so like you're I think you're it's like I feel like you just jumped into my head and kind of vocalize what I experienced like in the podcast world because I got so excited. I called Patrick and I said we monetized for the first time. It wasn't a lot. I mean, like it wasn't a lot. It was like what was it, $5, $6,
Bucks or
Patrick?
something. It was like, woo!
Yeah,
And
that's something to celebrate.
it was like so joyful, and I'm like, we made $6. Who would have thought? Like wow, and like but it's so very true. It's not really about the amount of the money. It is that the fact that whatever it's kind of like an acknowledgement or something like behind all the work that you're doing or that effort that you're saying, hey, yeah, you did something. And it could just be just a small the needle just moved a little bit, but it moved. But it moved. And that and that comes back again to your sprinkle effect. Because each little move, it's like a little sprinkle. You're going to get there. You're going to get to where you're going. Oh, I love this. I love this. This for me is like, ooh,
Oh, it's
I
life
love it.
giving. It's very much needed. So, thank you. It's like yes, it's I because I met my little one. We have a 4 year old, and he'll come home with sometimes with little envelopes and like there's little sprinkles in there. Then you find it all over the house.
Yeah.
But it's like that's one little sprinkle, then another, and like you're saying, it's writing, it's journaling, it's hanging out with friends, it's laughing for the first time. Or when you said that, like sometimes it's okay to laugh. I was like, I know for me, it's okay to grieve, and which I hate. I hate the grief, the loss. I mean, going all the way back to like my first pet, and it's just like
Yeah.
no, it's you grieve and then you find a sprinkle. You can laugh and you find a sprinkle, and I like that you brought that out, that so many times people see just the end. Like, I gotta go skydive, or I'm gonna go move to Europe. And it's like, maybe go explore a new library. Maybe go check out that new coffee shop. Reach out to that friend you haven't talked to. Call your parents. That's sprinkles. And I think of everything that you're giving us. You are just a joyful reminder that life does have loss, but who we become, what we can launch out of that is just part of the journey, which that's still my journey. Is like, no, no. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for this.
Debbie, I did want to ask you because I know we've been talking about your book, and for our listeners that are wondering, where can they find your book? Where can they locate you, or kind of like reach out to you? Can you provide those details so that they can find you and where they can find you?
Absolutely. So my books are on Amazon, but you can go to and anything else, Barnes and Noble, all the things online. But Debbie R. Weiss is my website, and there's links there to take you to the book on Amazon or my own website. So that's the best place to find out everything. You can contact me from there as well, or email me at debbie@debbierweiss.com or on Instagram, debbie.r.weiss.
Perfect, perfect. And we'll be sure to add that into our description so that we'll have that covered. And now I always love to ask my guests that are on here, uh can you share, because we are on life and in between, like a message for our current listeners that right now that are living a life and in between moment. I know that you shared a lot of sprinkles, right? Can you share one last final sprinkle, one last message that you would like to give to them?
So in the beginning, I don't even know which book. I think the first book, I talk about that when I was growing up, I was like a girl without a quote. That everybody, in your books, you would write, "Oh, what's your favorite quote?" I'm like, who the heck at like 17 has a favorite quote? I don't know. I didn't. And maybe about 6 years ago or so, I read a quote that we all know, and all of a sudden, it landed very differently with me. And I think it really just sums up my message perfectly. And it's from Glinda the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz, who said, "You've always had the power, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself."
Mm.
And I thought, That meant, Dorothy, you could have clicked your heels in the beginning of the movie and you would have been home. But no, it means each of us has the power inside of us to do whatever it is that we want. But we just have to learn that we have the power instead of giving the power to someone else or something else or circumstances in your life. We all have circumstances and hardships. That's what life is. But each of us has the power to change your life and make it the life that you want.
Debbie, if I was there, I would just give you such a big hug right now. Oh my gosh, I would.
Through the screen, through the
Through the
screen.
screen, I am hugging you right now. I hope you can feel
Hugs.
my embrace, my hug, because right now I just want to give you a huge hug and thank you so much because this is I know this has touched me and I know it's going to touch many, many, many people. I'm going to say that I absolutely love your message. I love everything that you had to say and thank you so much. And I'm so honored that you were here on our podcast. Patrick, I'm like, I don't want to continue talking. I mean, like, do you have anything to say or anything?
No, it's giving me a lot to sit with. It's yeah, and for our listeners out there as well, I think this is just a good spot to be at this time of year. The year is still kind of young. You can get to where you want to be. May not be perfect, but I think Debbie has kind of given us a lot of practical tools, to become the version that we want to be, but also how to navigate the seasons of life. That's all I can say is that you've given us some good tools, good reminders, and yeah, it's just implementing it. And I'm already thinking like, what can I do for my sprinkle to get some sprinkles in the day? Because I'm sick of being on the computer working and stuff. So I'm like, okay, let's get some sprinkles out there. So make it a sprinkle day, everybody,
A
wherever you are.
sprinkle day. I love that. I love that. And then I just want to go ahead and thank our listeners for joining us today. I know it feels like, I mean, I think we could sit here hours and talking, and I am like, because you have so much to share. And I always tell my guests that you are now part of La Familia, the life in between familia. So anytime that you want to come and join us again, you're welcome. And thank you for our listeners for tuning in. Please share this episode for those that need this message and all that, because I know there are plenty of us that need sprinkle in our life. Sprinkle this episode over to someone that you love and care for. And as we always close off, Patrick, for our people that have not subscribed or don't know where to find us, where do they go?
Yes, get your sprinkles on Spotify. You can find the Life in Between sprinkles at iTunes, YouTube, wherever you find your podcast. Look us up, subscribe, tell your friends. We're spreading a good message here. Miss Debbie is spreading life, and we want to just bring more people onto that party. So find us at lifeinbetweenpodcast.com.
Yes. And then I sending a lot of love, a lot of sprinkles and love. Thank you so much, everyone. Peace and love.
Sprinkles.